promoting that. But in doing so, we're also discussing where we're at today in connection to, or the religious implications and how those religious implications as it pertains to Jmmanuel and politics, how they come into focus in regards to the New World Order. Now, Janet, in regards to what we see on television and how different elements are even, and I ask you the question because you deal well with the mind in terms of different, vibrations. There are certain subliminal, or are there certain subliminal or certain messages that are being thrown out to get reactions, like we're seeing to a pick like Sarah Palin, or certain political notions that are going to possibly lead us to this manifestation that we know to be the New World Order? Are there things being thrown out there now? What could we look for?
From children's programs all the way on up, everything in Hollywood is already planned out to lead people a certain way so that their minds are open and receptive. And so some of the ideas that we're talking about, we're really labeling them and putting them right out there in front for people. But if they look at all the subtleties that are out there in the media, they will see how that they're being led step by step to accept all these things that we're talking about. For instance, as Stewart mentioned earlier, Princess Diana is still in the news 11 years later. That will not die. Whenever anything has a continuing thread, that's going to be seen in the media. For a while, I don't know if some of you were raised on Dick and Jane books. Those were brought back up again because a lot of these are triggers for people. The old-time the Mickey Mouse, Superman, those themes are continually brought up over and over and over again. So it doesn't really matter, Wizard of Oz, you name it. All these things are really not so subtle out there. They're out there and they're telling people, judging people, the reality shows that are out there. They're showing that if you don't go along with the group mind, you're out the door. And they make fun of people, and people tell on each other, and they gossip about each other. So it's really not subtle. It is there in front of everybody what's coming down the pike. And it's really about loss of individuality. It's really about a group mind that is being led by group leaders. And if you don't conform, then you're out the door.
And that it's very interesting that we're seeing recently, and it's strange how the events have coincided to this conversation and this particular interview in this program, simply because the pick of Sarah Palin, and not that we're going to jump on Sarah this whole program, but the pick of Sarah Palin has seemed to have energized the quote-unquote base of the Republican Party, namely the conservative base. And that base includes many things that have been detailed, not just in my program, but in many other programs, which do some of those elements show cause for concern? Because, and the reason why I mention that, because Sarah Palin is known to be extremely religious. She has been referred to as an extremist, a right-wing extremist. She has been, I also know personally that based on my research, that she also is a member of the charismatic Christian group, the Assemblies of God. So there are a lot of kind of red flags, if you may, in regards to this pick and this individual. Are we going to see, like, for example, George Bush, when his candidacy came out, one of the things that enabled him to energize the base was that he proclaimed being an evangelical Christian. We're seeing the same thing with Palin, but she's almost like George Bush on steroids. Either one of you can respond to that, and what do you see developing here?
Well, first of all, people also need to realize that Palin is part of the Alaskan Independence Party, and she supported that Alaska secede from the United States and become an independent country. That's a big red flag right there. Mm-hmm. Why would a woman who wants to have her state become an independent country agree to be the vice presidential candidate of the United States? And in fact, her supporter in that party, or the man who founded the party that she wanted to be part of, was quoted in the LA Times as saying that the fires of hell are colder than his burning hatred for the government of the United States, and that he refused to be buried under the flag of that country. So that's her friend, and that's who is running for vice president.
And also even her children's names. Track, her husband's name is Todd, and she's got a son, Track and Trig. The daughter's Winnie, like Winnie the Pooh,
Mm-hmm.
Piper, like in the Pied Piper, and what is the last one? Bristol.
That's it. Yeah.
So, and Bristol is an unwed teen mother. Now, what kind of message is that being showed? And then she has a young man brought into the picture who's going to marry this girl. So they're showing a lot of things here that we need to take a look at. They have a lot of programming issues going on. They have their religion coming on. They have it saying it's okay, let's go out and get pregnant at 17. Let's bring the young man up and shake his hands. Congratulations, you had sex with the daughter of the vice presidential candidate. Let's have babies. And that's also being shown in the Hollywood media as well. That's the real big focus on who's pregnant now and how did they get pregnant. Was it artificial? Was it natural?
That's true.
What are they having? What are their problems? Are they pregnant again? Look at them collecting children from all over the world. Let's take one that's black. Let's take one that's Asian. Let's put them all in the mix. So they're really bringing children into this, which is going to definitely be a part of the New World religion and not necessarily in a positive way.
And that again, you just really hit on some real strong points, Janet, that I have been looking at in terms of, like I said, there were red flags, but I just didn't know where the buttons were and just which ones are being pressed. But I think it just behooves the listeners to really pay close attention. Now, on the other hand, could it be, because a lot of people were saying that Hillary Clinton was the New World Order's figurehead. They were looking at the two was really going to come down to the two war candidates, Clinton and McCain. Well, we don't have Clinton. We have Obama and McCain. But then we also have, when Palin came into the mix, it almost seemed like this was their backup plan. And if people such as Dr. Bob Deagle think that Hillary Clinton was the epitome of evil, I think people are not even prepared or don't even know the half of what Palin is capable of. Because again, I still, being that we're on this subject of religion and we're looking at Jmmanuel, she seems to be a very, very religious extremist, and those are the people, for example, and I have to mention this because they were talking to a room of about 7 evangelicals who really were very, very aloof of whether or not they were going to support McCain. But as soon as Palin came on the ticket, everybody's supporting the ticket. Every religious person. Again, we're seeing the religious right, we're seeing the evangelical community, the Christian community, once again being manipulated in what could potentially be something very, very dangerous. I mean, is that the is this a plan? Is this McCain-Palin ticket is something that would be the New World Order's dream?
Well, absolutely, and that's how I knew when he picked her that he was going to become the president. Because given the background that I mentioned politically about her separation ideas, what better person to be in charge of the development of the North American Union, where Canada, the U.S., and Mexico join into one nation, a la the EU, and then it can break up the various states and provinces that wish to have an independence and yet be under one national umbrella. And that's what Canada has already done. Last year they proclaimed Quebec an independent nation within the Dominion of Canada. Well, that's the first step to the North American Union. And look what Europe did. They created this North American Union artificially. Everyone there still hates one another. Mm-hmm. Then they broke up Yugoslavia into all its pieces, and they broke up Russia into all its pieces, and now they're going to break up next year Great Britain into the Wales, Scotland, and England. So that's what they're showing. It's like division within an umbrella of union. And that's what we will have in North America after McCain takes office, and will lead to the breakup and reorganization of North America into this big union that will eventually connect to Central and South America and the Caribbean.
And of course, you have to remember, too, that these evangelical leaders that you're talking about, all of those are really in the back pockets of the politicians anyway. Anyone who is in the limelight has a position already. They have been tapped by the Illuminati, and they're really just following orders. And people have to look a little reluctant here and there because they're putting on basically a show for the American people.